Now we are going to see about the different types of centrifuges based on motor. We have already saw the centrifuges based on the rotors. Now we are going to see about the different types of centrifuge based on motor. A motor is going to provide the centrifugal field which is going to differ in these different types of centrifuges. They are about desktop centrifuge, which is going to be involved in desktop itself, that is which is going to easy to be handled. Then microfuges, which is going to handle the small types of samples of biological molecules. High speed centrifuge is going to sediment of large amount of samples at the increased speed. Even the smaller components are also going to be sedimented off in this high speed centrifuge. Then the ultra centrifuge. These ultra centrifuge are very accurate, are going to sediment the different components, particularly like proteins can be easily handled to be sedimented. A different protein which is going to have only small difference in molecular weight can also be sedimented off by these ultra centrifuge. Now we can see the centrifuges as individually. So the centrifuges can be individually differs based on its sedimentation capacity, because the motors which is going to have a high revolution is going to have the sedimentation as faster rate. Then the presence and absence of vacuum system. A vacuum system is also very important during the sedimentation process. Then the refrigeration system. When there is a increased centrifugation, that is an increased amount of revolution to be occurs, which lead to increase in heat. The heat production causes the or affect the sedimentation. So the heat production affecting the sedimentation can also be blocked by refrigeration system. This refrigeration system is going to block the heat produced by the motor, which is going to affect the sedimentation. Therefore, the sedimentation can occur at good level. Then the capacity of centrifuge tube may also differ in these centrifuges. First, the desktop centrifuge. A desktop centrifuge is also known as benchtop centrifuge, which is generally used in clinical level centrifuges. It is going to have very decreased amount of RPM, which is 3000 RPM. It lacks the temperature regulatory system because the RPM is going to be in decreased level, which does not causes any heat at all. So these rotors can add the tubes in even level, which does not have the odd tubes. The odd tubes added, which causes the blocking of sedimentation at the good level. So the main application for this desktop centrifuge is it is going to involve in small capacity of biochemical component separation and increased level of clinical level component centrifugation. It is less expensive. It is used generally for the RBC, yeast and chemical sample sedimentation. Next is going to be microfuges. Microfuges is also used in clinical level samples. It is going to have 10,000 RPM, which is slightly increased in the desktop centrifuge. It is going to sediment of small components in the clinical level. Modern microfuges also have refrigeration system, but most of the microfuges lacks it, because these microfuges are used for clinical samples. When there is a the proteins sedimentation can be affected by the heat. So it is going to have 10,000 RPM, which is more than the 3000 RPM like a desktop centrifuge, which causes the heat. This heater can be blocked by the refrigeration. So this refrigeration is very important for the separation of proteins, which is denatured by these heat. In general, these microfuges does not uses the normal centrifuge tube, which can handle only small amount of sample. So the Eppendorf tubes are generally preferred for these microfuges. So this is going to be used for less sample separation, which is not possible with the desktop centrifuges. Next, the high-speed centrifuges. High-speed centrifuges are used for bulk separation in the industrial level. All the microfuges and the desktop centrifuge are used for clinical level, but high-speed centrifuges are used for the industrial biological samples. It has RPM of about 1 lakh RPM. It generally uses zonal rotors because in the industrial level it needs more amount of sample to be separated off. So it also consists of refrigeration system because the RPM is more about 1 lakh RPM. So it needs a refrigeration system. It also consists of thermocouple because the increased heat can be converted into cooling system. This heat is directly converted to the cooling system by this thermocouple. So the heat is going to be reduced, which causes the increase in sedimentation and decrease in denaturation of the samples. So the major application for this sedimentation is proteins, organelles, cell debris and contractile proteins. Even a small amount of changes in the proteins can also be separated off by this high-speed centrifuge. Then the ultra centrifuge. It is going to be very advanced method of centrifugation. It is generally used for isolation of biological components. It can uses about 9 lakh RPM. Due to the increased revolution per minute, it needs a refrigeration system. A refrigeration system is done by the thermocouple where the heat is converted to the cooling process by the thermocouple. So it decreases the heat level. It has an increased vacuum system. This vacuum system is going to reduce the friction. As we already saw, the friction is increased due to increased viscosity of the medium. When there is an increased viscosity of the medium, then there is a decrease in sedimentation to occurs. So when there is a sedimentation to be occurs at a decreased level due to the friction. So this friction can be easily stopped by this centrifugation by the vacuum system. So when there is a vacuum system, the friction can be reduced and sedimentation can be increased. In general, ultracentrifugation occurs at the encapsulated chamber, which causes a vacuum system to be occurs. In general, the central axis for this sedimentation occurs by the aluminum and titanium, which causes to hold the biological material as the strong level. As it has increased RPM, it can be used for preparative ultracentrifuge and analytical ultracentrifuge. The preparative is used for isolation of biological material. The analytical is used for investigation of biological components, because preparative centrifuge is used at the qualitative level. Different cell components can be isolated off by this preparative method. But in analytical centrifuge, it is based on the quantitative level, where a quantity is going to be important and different cell components is going to be separated off based on this quantity. Its major application is used for DNA and RNA isolation of virus in industrial level. So next we are going to see about types of centrifugation based on centrifugal field in next video. Thank you.